The room smelled like disinfectant and something metallic I couldn't quite place. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, the kind that make everything look pale and wrong. I blinked at the ceiling tiles, institutional beige, water stained in the corners. My mouth felt like cotton. When I tried to sit up, my head swam. The door had a window, a small one, the kind with wire mesh between 2 layers of glass. I was wearing a gown, not my clothes, a thin hospital gown that tied in the back, and I couldn't remember putting it on. My hands were shaking as I touched the fabric. This wasn't the spa. Sarah had said we were going to a spa. I stood up too fast. The room tilted. I grabbed the edge of the bed, not a real bed, more like a cot bolted to the wall, and waited for the dizziness to pass. There was a toilet in the corner. No door, just a toilet, right there in the room where anyone could see. The window in the door showed a hallway, white walls. Another door across the way, also with a window. I could see someone inside that room, an older man pacing back and forth. He was wearing the same kind of gown. I went to the door and tried the handle. Locked. My name is Dorothy Chen. I'm 68 years old. I taught high school English for 40 years before I retired. My husband James died 3 years ago. I live alone in the house we bought in 1,989 inches, Riverside, California. I have a pension, a modest savings account, and a life insurance policy that I've been meaning to update because Sarah is listed as the sole beneficiary, but I kept meaning to split it between her and her brother Michael. Only Michael lives in Boston, and Sarah's the one who visits, so I hadn't gotten around to changing it yet. These are the facts I told myself while I stood at that locked door, because I needed to know that I still knew them. The door opened without warning. A woman in scrubs stood there with a clipboard. She had kind eyes but a tired face. Behind her, I could see a nurse's station. More white walls, a clock that said 3:47, though I didn't know if that was afternoon or morning. "Mrs. Chen?" she said. "I'm glad you're awake. How are you feeling?" "Where am I?" My voice came out hoarse. "I'm supposed to be at a spa. My granddaughter Sarah, she said she booked us a weekend at a spa resort for Mother's Day." The woman glanced at her clipboard. "Mrs. Chen, you're at Clearview Behavioral Health Center. You were admitted yesterday evening. There's been a mistake." I tried to step past her, but she moved to block me gently, but deliberately. "I don't belong here. I need to call my granddaughter. She'll explain. This is a mistake." "Your granddaughter is the one who brought you in," the woman said. Her voice was still kind, but there was something else in it now. Something practiced. "She's very concerned about you. She'll be back to visit soon. For now, why don't you come with me? Dr. Rosen wants to do an evaluation." I followed her because I didn't know what else to do. The hallway was longer than it looked from the window. We passed other rooms, other locked doors. Some of them had small windows covered from the inside. One door stood open, and I glimpsed a common area, plastic chairs bolted to the floor, a TV behind a protective cage, 2 people sitting far apart and not looking at each other. Dr. Rosen's office was different. It had a real door, not locked, and a desk with actual things on it, books, a coffee mug, a photo of 2 children. He was maybe 50, glasses, wedding ring. He smiled when I came in. "Mrs. Chen, please, sit down. I understand you're confused about why you're here." "Because I shouldn't be here." I sat in the chair across from his desk. "My granddaughter Sarah said we were going to a spa. She picked me up yesterday morning. She made me a smoothie," she said. "It was a special detox blend, something to prep for the spa treatments." I drank it, and then I tried to remember, and then I don't remember anything until I woke up here. Dr. Rosen was writing notes. "Your granddaughter brought you in yesterday evening. She was quite distressed. She said, you've been having episodes." "Episodes?" "Memory problems, confusion. She said, you've been accusing family members of stealing from you, getting lost in familiar places, forgetting conversations." He looked up from his notes. "She said she found you wandering in your nightgown in the middle of the night last week, not knowing where you were." That never happened. My voice was steady. I made it steady. None of that happened. I don't have memory problems. I taught English literature for 40 years. I can recite the opening of the Canterbury Tales in Middle English. I can tell you the entire plot of Bleak House. I read the New York Times every morning. I know exactly where I am and what day it is. I paused. What day is it? Saturday, May 10th. Mother's Day weekend. My throat felt tight. She said she was taking me to a spa for Mother's Day. Dr. Rosen leaned back in his chair. Mrs. Chen, I understand this is frightening, but your granddaughter has provided documentation, medical concerns from your primary care physician, incidents reported to Adult Protective Services. My doctor never said I had memory problems, and I've never had any contact with Adult Protective Services. But even as I said it, I felt something cold settling in my stomach. Sarah had been with me at my last doctor's appointment. She'd insisted on coming, said she wanted to make sure I understood everything the doctor said. What had she told them while I was in the waiting room? I'd like to make a phone call, I said. I have rights. I want to call my son. He lives in Boston. He'll tell you this is a mistake. Of course. We'll arrange that. But first, I'd like to do a quick cognitive assessment, just to establish a baseline. It's standard procedure. He asked me questions. What year is it? Who is the president? Count backwards from 100 by sevens. Spell world backwards. Remember these 3 words: apple, table, penny. Draw a clock showing 3:15. I answered everything. I drew the clock. When he asked me to recall the 3 words, I said them back without hesitation. Apple, table, penny. You seem oriented and coherent right now, he said. But I understand from your granddaughter that the episodes are intermittent, that you have good days and bad days, because there are no bad days. There are no episodes. I was gripping the arms of the chair. Please, let me call my son. We'll arrange that, he said again. But Mrs. Chen, I need you to understand. Your granddaughter has filed for emergency conservatorship. The hearing is in 2 weeks. Until then, we need to keep you here for evaluation. The words didn't make sense at first. Conservatorship. Like what happened to Britney Spears. I'd read about that in the news. A conservatorship meant someone else controlled your life, your money, your decisions. She can't do that. She can, actually, with proper medical documentation, which she has provided. He stood up. I know this is difficult, but try to rest. We'll make sure you're comfortable here, and we'll reassess in a few days. They walked me back to the room with the bolted bed and the toilet with no door. The woman in scrubs I heard someone call her Janet said she'd bring me dinner. She said it like that was supposed to be comforting. The door locked behind me with a sound like finality. I sat on the bed. I made myself breathe slowly. I made myself think. Sarah had been planning this. For how long? When had it started? I thought back over the past few months. Sarah had started visiting more often. At first, I was glad. After James died, I'd felt the silence in the house like a weight, and Sarah's visits filled some of that space. She brought takeout. She stayed to watch movies. She asked about my finances. Was I managing okay on my own? Did I need help with bills? I'd thought she was being thoughtful. She'd asked about the house. Had I thought about downsizing? It was so much maintenance for one person. I could sell it, move into a nice senior community. I'd have friends there, activities. I'd said I wasn't ready. The house was mine and James's. Our memories were in every room. She'd said she understood. But she'd brought it up again a few weeks later, and again. Last month, she'd asked about my will. Had I updated it after Grandpa died? I should make sure everything was in order, just in case. I'd mentioned I was going to change the life insurance, split it between her and Michael instead of leaving it all to her. It was only fair. She'd gone very quiet. Then she'd said, of course, whatever I thought was best. 2 weeks after that, she'd started talking about my memory, asking if I'd remembered to pay the electric bill, reminding me that I'd told her the same story twice, suggesting I write things down because I seemed to be forgetting more and more. I hadn't been forgetting, but she'd said it so many times that I started to doubt myself. Had I told her that story before? Had I forgotten to mail that check? And then the spa invitation. She'd been so excited about it. A Mother's Day gift, she said. We both needed it. I'd been under so much stress. The smoothie had tasted strange, bitter under the fruit, but Sarah said that was the detox ingredients. Spirulina, she said. Activated charcoal. I'd trusted her. Dinner came on a plastic tray. The woman Janet watched me eat. I asked if I could make my phone call. Tomorrow, she said. Dr. Rosen needs to approve it first. You can't keep me here without letting me contact someone. You're not being kept here, Mrs. Chen. You're here for evaluation, for your own safety. She took the tray when I was done. Half the food was still on it. Try to get some rest. The lights in the hallway stayed on all night. Every 15 minutes, someone opened the door to check on me. I heard them checking on other patients too. Doors opening, closing, footsteps. Sometimes voices, though I couldn't make out the words. I didn't sleep. In the morning, a different doctor came. Younger, a woman with her hair in a tight bun. She asked me the same questions. What year is it? Who is the president? Remember these 3 words: book, flower, candle. I answered everything again. I was oriented. I was coherent. I knew exactly where I was and why I shouldn't be here. Your granddaughter mentioned you've been paranoid, the doctor said, accusing her of trying to steal from you. I never said that, because she never gave me a reason to. Until now. Memory loss often comes with confabulation, she said, filling in gaps with false memories. You might not remember making those accusations. I'm not making false memories. I know what's real. She made a note on her tablet. We'll continue the evaluation. Try to participate in group therapy this afternoon. It will help. The group therapy was in the common area with the bolted chairs. 6 of us sat in a circle while a counselor with a forced smile asked us to share our feelings. A man about my age talked about the voices he heard. A younger woman cried through her whole turn. When it was my turn, I said I wanted to go home. This is about healing, the counselor said. About accepting help. I don't need help. I need a lawyer. After group, I asked Janet again about making a phone call. She said Dr. Rosen was in meetings all day. Maybe tomorrow. That night, they gave me medication. A small paper cup with 2 pills. I asked what they were. For anxiety? The nurse said. Doctor's orders. I don't have anxiety. I'm upset because I'm being held here against my will. That's not the same thing. You need to take your medication, Mrs. Chen. What if I refuse? She had the same kind, tired expression Janet had. Then we'll have to give it to you another way. It's easier if you just take the pills. I took the pills. Because I understood the threat. Because I'd seen the man down the hall being held down by 3 orderlies while they injected something into his arm, and I understood that I had no power here. The pills made everything soft around the edges, made the fluorescent lights look almost gentle, made the locked door seem less important. By the 3rd day, I was having trouble remembering what day it was. The pills did that. Every morning, more pills. Every evening, more pills. For anxiety, they said. To help me sleep, to keep me calm. I tried to refuse. They told me it was involuntary medication, court-ordered, for my own safety. I wasn't sure what was real anymore. Maybe I did have memory problems. Maybe I was confused. The pills made it hard to think. Made 40 years of teaching feel like something that happened to someone else. Sarah visited on the 4th day. She wore black pants and a blue sweater, and she looked worried. She hugged me, and I couldn't remember if I should hug her back. How are you feeling, Grandma? She sat in the plastic chair next to mine in the visiting area. Tired. They're taking good care of you here. Dr. Rosen says you're doing better. I want to go home. I know. But you need to get healthy first. You need help, Grandma. You haven't been yourself. She reached across the table and took my hand. I'm doing this because I love you. You know that, right? I looked at her hand on mine. Her nails were manicured. There was a new ring on her middle finger, gold with a small diamond. I didn't remember seeing it before. "I know you're upset," she said. "But once the conservatorship goes through, everything will be easier. I'll be able to take care of everything for you. The house, the bills, the medical decisions. You won't have to worry about anything." Conservatorship. The word came out slurred. "The pills did that too. Just temporary. Just until you're better. The hearing is next week. The judge will see that this is what's best." She squeezed my hand. "I've already talked to a real estate agent about the house. I found a really nice assisted living facility. You'll have your own room, activities. It's perfect. I don't want to sell the house. Grandma, you can't live alone anymore. You know that." Her voice was patient, practiced, "And the house is worth a lot. The money will help pay for your care." I pulled my hand away. "You're stealing from me." Her expression didn't change. "You see? This is what I'm talking about. These paranoid thoughts. That's exactly why you need to be here." After she left, I went back to my room and I tried to think clearly through the fog of the medication. I tried to remember who I was. Dorothy Chen, 68 years old, taught English at Riverside High for 40 years, retired in 2016. James died in 2022. I have a pension. I have a house. I have a son in Boston. Michael. I needed to call Michael. I found Janet at the nurse's station. "I need to make a phone call." "You said I could make a phone call." She looked up from her computer. "Dr. Rosen approved phone privileges for you. There's a phone in the common area. You can use it during free time." "When is free time?" "After dinner. 7 to 8:30. I waited. I sat in the common area and watched the clock behind its protective cage. The other patients drifted in and out. Some of them talked to people who weren't there. Some of them just stared at nothing. One woman kept walking in circles around the room, counting her steps. Was I like them? Was I confused and paranoid and I just couldn't see it? No, I knew what was real. At 7 o'clock, I went to the phone. It was on the wall, with a cord that couldn't reach anywhere private. I dialed Michael's number. I still knew it by heart. It rang 4 times before he answered. "Hello? Michael, it's Mom." "Mom? Where are you calling from? This isn't your number." "I'm at a hospital. A psychiatric hospital in Riverside. Michael, Sarah had me committed. She's trying to get conservatorship. She's trying to sell the house." Silence on the other end. Then, "Mom, Sarah called me. She told me you've been having episodes. She said you needed help." "I don't have episodes. She's lying. She drugged me and brought me here, and now she's—" "Mom, you need to calm down. You sound paranoid." "I'm not paranoid. I'm telling you what's happening. She's stealing from me. She's trying to get control of my money." "Sarah wouldn't do that. She loves you. She's been taking care of you since Dad died." "Michael, please. I need you to come here. I need you to talk to the doctors. Tell them I'm fine." "Mom, if the doctors think you need to be there, then you probably do. Maybe you're not seeing it clearly right now. But Sarah's doing the right thing." "Michael, I have to go. I have a work thing, but I'll call Sarah and check in with her. Try to cooperate with the treatment, okay? It's for the best." He hung up. I stood there with the phone in my hand until a nurse told me my time was up. That night, I refused the medication. They held me down, 3 of them. 2 men and Janet, who kept saying she was sorry. This was for my own good. They gave me the injection. I woke up the next morning not remembering going to bed. I stopped fighting the medication after that, because fighting just made it worse. They gave me more when I fought. They put me in the quiet room, a smaller room, nothing in it at all except padding on the walls, and they locked me in there for hours. I took the pills. I went to group therapy. I said I was feeling better. Dr. Rosen said I was making progress. Sarah visited again. She brought clothes from my house. Nice clothes. A dress I'd worn to James's funeral. She said I should wear it to the hearing. The judge needs to see that you're being taken care of, she said. That you're getting better. I wore the dress to the hearing because they told me to. We went in a van, me and 2 orderlies. The courthouse was downtown, 20 minutes from my house, from my home. The hearing was in a small room. The judge was a woman about my age, with gray hair and reading glasses on a chain. Sarah sat at one table with a lawyer I'd never seen before. I sat at another table with a public defender who'd introduced herself to me 10 minutes earlier and said she'd reviewed my case. Your Honor, Sarah's lawyer said, my client is deeply concerned about her grandmother's well-being. Mrs. Chen has been experiencing significant cognitive decline. She's been found wandering, confused about her surroundings. She's made unfounded accusations against family members. Her primary care physician has documented concerning symptoms. Given these circumstances, we believe a temporary conservatorship is necessary to ensure Mrs. Chen receives appropriate care. The judge looked at me. Mrs. Chen, do you understand the proceedings? Yes. My voice sounded thin. Your Honor, I don't have cognitive decline. My granddaughter is lying. She drugged me and had me committed because she wants control of my estate. The judge's expression didn't change. That's a serious accusation. I taught high school English for 40 years. I retired 3 years ago. My husband died in 2022. I manage my own finances. I read the Times every morning. I can recite the opening of Canterbury Tales in Middle English, if you'd like. There's nothing wrong with my memory or my cognition. Sarah's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, this is exactly the kind of paranoid ideation Dr. Rosen documented in his evaluation. Mrs. Chen lacks insight into her condition. I don't lack insight. I understand exactly what's happening. My granddaughter found out I was changing my life insurance beneficiary to include my son. She's been systematically setting this up for months. The judge looked at my public defender. Does your client have any evidence to support these claims? My lawyer glanced at me. Not at this time, Your Honor, because I've been locked in a psychiatric facility for a week, heavily medicated, unable to access my records or contact an independent attorney. The judge looked at the papers in front of her for a long time. Finally, she said, I'm granting a temporary conservatorship for 90 days, pending further evaluation. Mrs. Chen, you'll remain at Clearview for continued treatment. We'll reconvene in 3 months to reassess. The gavel came down. Sarah hugged her lawyer. I watched through the fog of medication and understood that I'd lost something I couldn't get back. They took me back to Clearview in the van. Back to the room with the bolted bed and the toilet with no door. Back to the pills and the group therapy and the fluorescent lights that made everything look wrong. That night, I couldn't take the pills. I held them under my tongue and spit them out when the nurse left. It made me sick withdrawal, or maybe just fear, but I needed to think clearly. I needed to figure out what to do. In the morning, without the medication, everything came back into sharp focus. I was 68 years old. I taught English literature for 40 years. I owned a house in Riverside. I had a pension and savings and a life insurance policy. And my granddaughter was stealing all of it. During free time, I found another patient, an older man named Robert who'd been here for 3 weeks. He was lucid when he wasn't medicated, same as me. How do I get out of here? I asked him. You don't. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Not unless your family says you can. There has to be a way. There isn't. They medicate you until you believe them, until you think maybe they're right and you are crazy. But I wasn't going to believe them. I was going to get out. I started paying attention to the staff rotations. The nurses changed shifts at 7 and 3, the orderlies at different times. There was a janitor who came in the evenings, an older Hispanic man who never said much, just pushed his cart down the hallways and emptied the trash. His name was Jose. I heard one of the nurses call him that. One evening, I followed him to the utility closet. Jose, can I talk to you? He looked startled. You're supposed to be in common area during free time. I know. I need help. Please. I don't belong here. My granddaughter had me committed so she could steal my money. I need to contact someone outside. Someone who can help me." He shook his head. "I don't get involved in patient things. I just clean. Please. You're the only person who comes in from outside. The only one who isn't part of this system." I was trying not to cry. I taught high school for 40 years. English literature. I had students who went on to become lawyers and doctors and writers. One of them is a professor at UC Riverside now. His name is Victor Chen, no relation. If you could just call him, tell him where I am, he'd help me. Jose looked at me for a long moment. "I have daughter," he said finally. She, 34. She tells me all the time I should retire. She says she worry about me working so hard, but I tell her I'm not old yet. I'm not ready to stop. He paused. If someone locked her up, said she couldn't make her own choices anymore, I would want someone to help her. "So you'll call Victor?" I didn't say that. I said if. He picked up his mop. "But maybe I write down that name. Victor Chen, UC Riverside. Maybe I write that down." He walked away. I went back to the common area and pretended to watch TV with the others. 3 days later, during morning group therapy, someone came to get me. "Mrs. Chen, you have a visitor." It wasn't visiting hours. I thought it might be Sarah. Come to check on her investment. But it was Victor Chen. Older now, he'd been my student 20 years ago, but I recognized him. He was in a suit, carrying a briefcase, and he looked furious. "Professor Chen." I used his old nickname without thinking, Dorothy. He hugged me, and I did cry then. What the hell happened? My granddaughter had me committed. She's trying to get conservatorship, to steal everything. "I know," Jose called me. "He told me where you were." I contacted a lawyer friend of mine who specializes in elder law. She's filing an emergency motion to have the conservatorship dissolved. He pulled papers from his briefcase. "But I need you to do something for me first. I need you to prove you're competent." "How?" "Talk to me. About Chaucer. About Shakespeare. About anything you taught me 20 years ago." So I did. I recited the opening of Canterbury Tales in Middle English. I discussed the symbolism in King Lear. I analyzed the narrative structure of Bleak House. I talked about Faulkner and Morrison and everything I'd spent 40 years teaching. Victor recorded it on his phone. "This is going to the judge today, along with testimony from 3 of your other former students, all of them professionals who can attest to your mental acuity. One of them is a neurologist. She's willing to conduct an independent evaluation. Sarah has documentation from doctors, falsified documentation, or documentation she manipulated. We're going to prove that. But Dorothy, I need you to tell me something. Do you have any resources? Any money outside of what she might have accessed? There's a savings bond. James's mother gave it to us when we got married. We never cashed it. It's in a fire safe in the bedroom closet." I closed my eyes, trying to remember through the fog of forced medication. The combination is James's birthday, July 15th, 1954. 7/15/54. I'll need legal authority to enter your house. The key is under the flower pot by the back door. Everyone knew that. It's not breaking in if I stopped. Can you do that? Legally? I'll figure it out. He squeezed my hand. "Hang on. We're going to get you out of here." It took another week. A week of pretending to take the medication, of group therapy and evaluations, and Sarah visiting to say how proud she was of my progress. A week of sleeping on that bolted bed and using that toilet with no door and wondering if Victor would actually be able to help or if this was all going to fail. Then the lawyer came. Her name was Margaret Reyes, and she was maybe 40, with sharp eyes and an expensive suit. She brought papers. The judge granted an emergency hearing. Tomorrow morning, Victor's testimony, plus the independent psychiatric evaluation showing no signs of cognitive impairment, plus some inconsistencies we found in your granddaughter's documentation. She smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who'd found blood in the water. We also found her Google search history. She left her laptop at your house when she was helping you prepare to move. Victor got it from the house. Technically, you gave him permission, so it's legal. Her searches include how to declare someone incompetent, emergency conservatorship requirements, how long does conservatorship take, and my personal favorite, do life insurance policies pay out with conservatorship? That's evidence? That's intent. That's premeditation. That's your granddaughter planning to defraud you. Margaret put the papers in her briefcase. Get some rest. Tomorrow, we end this. The hearing was different this time. The same judge, but the room was more crowded. Victor was there. Margaret Reyes, the independent psychiatrist, 3 other former students of mine, all of them willing to testify. Sarah was there with her lawyer, but she looked different, worried. Her lawyer kept whispering to her. The psychiatrist testified first. I conducted a comprehensive evaluation of Mrs. Chen, including cognitive testing, memory assessment, and a full psychiatric interview. I found no evidence of dementia, cognitive impairment, or any condition that would prevent her from managing her own affairs. She scored in the 97th percentile on all cognitive tests. Her memory is exceptional. There is no medical basis for conservatorship. Sarah's lawyer stood up. Her previous doctors saw her 3 times in 6 months. Each time, her granddaughter Sarah accompanied her and provided the medical history. There's no independent verification of the symptoms Sarah reported. In fact, when I contacted Mrs. Chen's longtime physician, he said he never documented any concerns about cognitive decline. The documentation provided to this court appears to have been altered. The judge looked at Sarah. Is this true? Sarah's lawyer whispered to her urgently. Sarah said nothing. Margaret Reyes stood up. Your Honor, I'd like to submit evidence of Miss Sarah Chen's internet search history. She handed papers to the bailiff. As you'll see, Miss Chen researched conservatorship procedures extensively in the months leading up to her grandmother's commitment. She also researched the value of her grandmother's house, the payout on her life insurance policy, and how to access accounts with power of attorney. I was just trying to help her, Sarah said. Her voice was shaky. She's old. She needs someone to take care of her. By having her committed to a psychiatric facility, by having her forcibly medicated, by attempting to sell her house while she was locked up. Margaret's voice was sharp. Your Honor, this isn't concern. This is financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. The judge looked at the papers for a long time. Then she looked at me. Mrs. Chen, can you tell me in your own words what happened? So I did. I told her about the spa invitation, the smoothie that made me dizzy, waking up in a locked room, the forced medication, Sarah's visits, where she talked about selling the house and the assisted living facility, the phone call with Michael, where even my own son didn't believe me. Your Honor, I said, I taught high school English for 40 years. I have a master's degree from UCLA. I published 2 papers on Victorian literature. I can recite entire passages of Chaucer from memory. I manage my own finances. I read the Times every morning. I volunteer at the library every Tuesday. There is nothing wrong with my mind. My granddaughter wanted my money, and she almost got it. The judge was quiet. Then she said, the conservatorship is dissolved immediately. Mrs. Chen is released from Clearview Behavioral Health as of this moment. Miss Sarah Chen, you are hereby barred from any contact with your grandmother. The district attorney's office will receive a copy of these proceedings for potential criminal charges. She looked at Sarah. You should get a lawyer, a different one. The gavel came down. I walked out of that courthouse in the dress Sarah had brought me, the one I'd worn to James's funeral, and I got into Victor's car, and I didn't look back. Victor drove me home. The house looked the same. The flower pot was by the back door. The key was underneath it. Inside, everything was different. Sarah had started packing. There were boxes in the living room. Some of my books were already wrapped in newspaper. The photo albums were in a pile by the door. I sat down on the couch, in my house, and I cried for the first time since this whole thing started. Margaret Reyes came by later that week. She brought more papers. Sarah's been charged with elder abuse, fraud, attempted theft, and false imprisonment. The DA's office is taking it seriously. She could get 10 years. Does she know? She's been arrested. She made bail, but the trial's in 6 months. Margaret sat down across from me. Dorothy, I have to tell you, these cases are hard to win, even with everything we have. Juries sometimes think, well, she's family. She was probably just concerned. They don't want to believe someone could do this to their own grandmother. But we have evidence. We do. And it's good evidence. But I want you to be prepared. Justice doesn't always happen the way it should. The trial was in November. I didn't go to most of it. Margaret told me I didn't have to. But I went for the verdict. The jury found Sarah guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced her to 8 years in prison. Restitution for the money she'd already accessed. Permanent restraining order. I watched them take her out of the courtroom in handcuffs. She didn't look at me. Michael called me that night. Mom, I'm sorry. I should have believed you. Yes, I said. You should have. Sarah seemed so worried about you. And you did seem confused when you called me from the hospital. Because they were drugging me. Because they were holding me against my will. And you believed her instead of me. I know. I'm sorry. I'll do better. Will you? I asked, and I hung up. I sold the house 6 months later, not because Sarah wanted me to, because I wanted to, because it was too full of ghosts and betrayal, and I needed something new. I bought a condo downtown, smaller, easier to manage. I started volunteering at a legal aid clinic for seniors. I told my story to anyone who would listen. I wrote an article about it for a legal journal. I testified before the state legislature about conservatorship reform. I started a support group for people who'd been wrongfully committed. We meet every month. Some of them are still fighting to get out. Some of them got out but can't get their lives back. I help where I can. Victor still visits. So do some of my other former students. They call me Professor Chen. It makes me feel like myself again. I'm 70 now. I have a life I rebuilt from nothing. I have a voice that nobody can medicate away. I have a story that matters, and I know who I am. I'm Dorothy Chen. I taught high school English for 40 years. I survived what my own granddaughter tried to do to me. I'm not a victim. I'm not vulnerable. I'm not someone who needs to be taken care of. I'm someone who fought back and won.